Live from Super Bowl 58 Radio Row. Rich, Gannon, I don't know if we were on Miami Vice with that intro or Las Vegas, Nevada. Either way, we are rocking and rolling, and we're being joined by you, former Chiefs, former Raiders, former Delaware quarterback. I use that analogy because
an MVP.
Brett Veach, we got that connection going on.
I just got to tell you, I am honored to be on the set. I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes, which is a really cool figure.
It is.
Joe Montana, which is maybe even cooler when you look at the pose.
Yeah.
And some slappy named Rich Gannon. I'll tell you, that's pretty good.
Look at that detail. We got the that's like got the grass stains on the white on whites. That's a good figure. That's a
pretty cool
figure.
Yeah. But the guy over there with the cape on is like Superman. That's for sure.
Got you in our sign back there.
You guys look good. How's the week going?
It's been long. It's been Vegas-y so far. You got to pace yourself here. We've never experienced this before, right?
Yeah, I think the Super Bowl is going to be in the rotation. I just think when you look at the facilities that the Raiders have, obviously, the stadium is incredible, Allegiant Stadium, and I think obviously Vegas can handle the volume. You've got all the entertainment, the hotels, a lot to do here, concerts, sporting events. Some of our crew went to the hockey game the other night. There's a lot going on. So this is.
We got the WWE guys, Triple H, The Rock. They're all going to be rolling in here.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, the Chiefs have been winning with the running game and relying on the defense and kind of figuring out who they are throughout this season as they struggled in the receiver room. But I've made this analogy all week. Do you want to continue that way, winning that way with defense in the running game? You got this Ferrari and Patrick Mahomes, and it's this year he's in bumper-to-bumper traffic instead of being out on the Autobahn letting that car loose.
I just think if you look at what happened the last 2 weeks against the 49ers, they did not play the run very well. I think Aaron Jones rushed for over 100. You look at what happened in the first half last week. I think the Lions had 140 yards rushing, and they rushed for 180 in that game, averaged over 6 yards a carry. So I think it'd be foolish for Andy not to try and run the ball a little bit at these edges. When you really study their front, they got a lot of money tied up in that front. Nick Bosa had 2 sacks last week. He's probably a much better pass rusher than he is a run defender. On the other side, Chase Young is MIA. He's missing in action when it comes to defending the run. They have not played the run well. And I think you have to make sure you probe that area a little bit and keep them off balance. But, at the end of the day, you got Travis Kelce, you got Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the game, and they're going to take their shots down the field as well.
Yeah, just on that kind of quick, you mentioned Nick Bosa, the trade for Chase Young. They've got one guy, Nick Bosa, you mentioned, who wants to just go get the quarterback, and they make that trade. Chase Young, big name, but now they've got another guy that just wants to go get the quarterback, and so you leave those edges wide open for the run like you're talking about.
Yeah, and they've got money tied up inside, too, when you look at Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave, and they haven't played the run very well. They haven't gotten off of blocks, and there was an article that came out earlier this week about, Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator, saying that their play last week was unacceptable. The lack of effort. I don't know how you don't play hard in an NFC championship game, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think the Chiefs will match up well. I think the encouraging thing was, look at Donovan Smith and Taylor on the right side. Juwan Taylor, they maybe had their best game last week against the Baltimore Ravens. So I think that's something to build on as well.
Yeah.
Rich, you had a big part of the sort of genesis of this Chiefs run. It was January of 2020 when you and Kevin Harlan were famously on that call against the Chargers. Kevin Harlan's trying to call 2 games at once.
Right.
And you're like, what game are you calling right now? That was when the Dolphins were beating the Patriots. It got the Chiefs to the 2 seed. They make the run, win the first Super Bowl. Could you ever have foreseen where this thing was heading kind of back at that time?
A lot of times with young quarterbacks, and we're seeing it on the other side with Brock Purdy, we're a little hesitant to all of a sudden say this is a great player, this is a transformational player. We want to see more of their body of work. But you could tell early in the process with Patrick Mahomes that he was different. He was unique. I mean, he's got so many of the qualities and intangibles that you love at that position. But I think his creativity, his ability to manufacture offense on his own, his poise, I mean, his arm talent, which is second to none. I mean, there's not a throw that he can't make. So when you kind of see that type of player and you know what you have in Andy Reid, because I've been around Andy a long time and competed against him, but also went against some of his teams in Philadelphia. I just thought it was a match made in heaven. And I'm not surprised to see the type of success the Chiefs have had for the last 5 Super Bowls. This is very reminiscent of what we saw from Belichick and Brady.
Yeah, and people talk about Brock Purdy, a polarizing figure topic. They want to talk, is he elite? Is he a game manager? Should he have been MVP? But my question is he beat Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl good?
Well, it's not going to, obviously, you guys know it's not going to come down to Patrick and Brock. It's going to come down to the teams. And I think he's a really good player. And I think I refer to him as the Rodney Dangerfield of NFL quarterbacks. He gets no respect. The whole idea that people want to call him a game manager, these so-called these expert analysts, everyone's a game manager.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, and they come in all different shapes
Patrick
and sizes.
Mahomes this season has had to be a game manager.
I mean, we all have to manage situational football. Here's the thing. We want to put people in boxes. He's never, ever going to be Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have that arm talent. He doesn't have some of those qualities. He's only 6 feet tall. He's 6 feet and a half inch tall. He's going to struggle with push-up inside. We saw that against Detroit. We saw that against Green Bay. Chris Jones is going to be a factor in this game if he can push the pocket from inside out. But, he finds ways to beat you. He's very accurate. He's got great anticipation. He understands the game. He knows where his quick answer throws are. He's got tools in his toolbox to handle a blitz. He's got a good supporting cast. He's got good running backs, good receivers, a great tight end, and a really, really good play caller in Kyle Shanahan. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup on Sunday night.
Rich, talk about the Chiefs organization and its transition from kind of lovable franchise, Midwest team that you played on from 95 to 98 to Patrick Mahomes gets drafted, Andy Reid's here, to now the transition of Taylor Swift being involved, dating Travis Kelce, and now this team is hated. They're booed at opening night. This country can't take its eyes off the Chiefs, but they want the Chiefs to go down.
That's a good thing, I think. When you're at the top of the mountain, people, there's only one place to go. But I'll say this about the Chiefs. I think the way they handle their business, I think, I love their energy. We spent some time with both of the Patrick and Travis on Monday night, and they're just really excited to be here. I think they don't take it too serious in terms of the whole week of preparation. They have fun with it. I think they enjoy competing. I think they enjoy the whole process, of being in meetings and studying and game planning and being in the training room and in the weight room and doing all the things it takes to be great players. So, it's amazing how it's changed. I give a lot of credit to Clark Hunt. I mean, Lamar did an amazing job, Lamar and Norma, but after Lamar's passing, the torch was handed to Clark, and he didn't flinch. He went out and hired Andy Reid. They go out and draft Patrick Mahomes, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and sticking in the division that the Chiefs are in, the AFC West, the big news, Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. And Justin Herbert, I've kind of always equated to Elvis Grbac. Obviously a more talented quarterback than Elvis Grbac, but maybe the reason they didn't go with you and went with Elvis, he's the big, tall, statuesque quarterback, kind of prototype, got the big, lively arm, but maybe has the tangibles, but not the intangibles. And they saw you're running around back there, that you were kind of before your time as far as what we're seeing today, kind of a Kyler Murray-esque, getting out of the pocket, creating plays out of nothing, and keeping the play alive. And do you think that's a fair comparison, that maybe Justin Herbert has the tangibles, but maybe not the intangibles?
I don't see the comparison between him and Elvis. I think this guy's a really good player. Not that Elvis wasn't, but this guy's a really good player. And I just think he was in a bad situation. And I just think that that's going to change significantly and rather quickly with Jim Harbaugh. Jim was my quarterback coach for a couple of years with the Raiders. He's played the position. He's coached the position. He sees the game through the eyes of the quarterback. I think they'll get that thing turned around. I think, Justin's a really good player. He's really smart. He's got major arm talent. He can run with the ball when he has to. He's tough. He's another quarterback that has a lot of the intangibles that you like. I just think their defense has been so bad. I think they haven't been as good up front. I don't think they've been consistent enough running the football. I think a lot of that's going to change under Jim Harbaugh. I think this division is going to get a little bit tighter. Sean Payton is going to get things turned around in Denver. He's a good football coach. He's got to get the quarterback situation resolved. I think you look at Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. That'll make things more difficult. The Raiders are still working through some things. They've kept their interim head coach in Antonio Pierce. They've got to continue to get better in the quarterback room. They've got to add depth and talent to that position for sure.
Rich, how do you assess kind of the future of your Andy Reid right now? And hypothetically, you win Sunday, you've won 3 Super Bowls, 2 in a row. Do you feel like, hey, I'm attached to this Patrick Mahomes guy, this thing that's running and off and running and into the stratosphere, and we could do more, we could really build on this? Or is there a thought for Andy that, what do we do from here? Could we call it quits after the season? You walk out with back-to-back Super Bowls. What else is there to prove?
Yeah, Andy could do whatever he chooses. My sense is in talking to Brett Veach and some of the people around the building, that he's not going anywhere. I think he enjoys the process. I mean, when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes and you get to come into work every day and put together a game plan, a guy that can handle a ton of volume and information and get you in and out of bad plays, and you go out every week, you go out, you have a really, really, really good chance of winning. I mean, that's kind of hard to walk away from. Coaches work a lifetime to get into this situation. And once you get there and once you've got that marquee quarterback, man, it's hard to give it up.
Yeah, and Patrick Mahomes, the question around him is, can he catch Tom Brady? Can he become the GOAT? This Sunday comes a big one. He needs to be 3-1 instead of 2-2 in Super Bowls to get closer to that. But do you think he can get there and be better than Tom Brady?
I mean, I've never been comfortable comparing quarterbacks from different generations, or even, I mean, look, the guy's well on his way to being a Hall of Famer. I don't know what more I can possibly say about a quarterback who's just really finishing his 6 years as starter, but I think that, they can keep this thing together. I mean, what Belichick and Brady did for the better part of 2 decades is really amazing. And I think it's not just, I think what we're finding out, it's not just Belichick, it's not just Brady. I mean, they had an amazing operation there, a team that was committed to doing all the little things it takes to be successful. And I think we're seeing that in Kansas City. How much longer can you keep it going? I think some of those questions, I think the great thing about Andy is he doesn't worry about tomorrow or next week or next month or next year or what the legacy is going to look like. Andy is singularly focused on today. How do we get better today? How do we get the team ready for Sunday so that we can go out and play our best football?
Rich, you took the Raiders to the Super Bowl in 2003. It's a franchise that hasn't won a playoff game since that time, 2 playoff appearances since that time, and they're getting a walking, breathing, live look at maybe a big motivator here as the Chiefs logos painted on their locker room, painted on the field. For Antonio Pierce, who was here yesterday, a lot of positive vibes around him. Just talk about the Raiders organization and how they're getting it right in their faces of what they need to be and the motivation for them going forward.
If you're a Raider fan, this is a really difficult week, right? Because your 2 biggest nemesis in the game. I mean, because think about it, the Chiefs in the AFC West, and then our neighbors back in the day in the Bay Area, the San Francisco 49ers. There's no love lost between Raider fans and Chiefs fans, or Raider fans and Niner fans. So this one really hurts if you're a Raider fan. But I think it does give you a glimpse of what it takes to be successful. And I think you got to start with the quarterback position. I mean, the 49ers have a good young quarterback that they really like, and Brock Purdy. He's won a lot of football games. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes. I always tell people he's not the best quarterback in the NFL. He's the best player in the NFL. And I think that's really where you have to start. Here's an interesting number. The last 4 years, we fired 30 NFL head coaches. 30.
Wow.
We got 8 this year. We had 5 last year. We had 10 the year before and 7 the year before. That's 30. There's only 32 teams. We just fired Bill Belichick because his quarterback room wasn't right. The only exception to the rule was the Chargers and Justin Herbert. They got rid of Brandon Staley because he couldn't figure out when to go for it or when to punt. But the reality is, that's 30 coaches in 4 years, and they're all getting fired for the same reason. They don't have the quarterback. You have to be able to identify, draft, and develop that position. And some teams do a really good job of it, and some teams don't. And the teams that don't get in this dysfunctional cycle of firing head coaches, firing GMs, and replacing quarterbacks.
Yeah, how have you seen the Chiefs adapt this season from where they were with the receivers, with all the drops, all the mistakes, the Kadarius Toney offsides, to where they've come to now throughout this postseason? You've seen Travis Kelce come alive, Rashee Rice come on throughout the end of the season. Where do you think they're at now heading into this Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think you got a young player in Rashee Rice who's really coming on. I think the more reps that he gets, the better he seems to do. And, of course, Travis Kelce, I think his legs have come back a little bit here the last couple of weeks. I think 11 for 116 against the Ravens. I think what was missing from Travis, in the middle part of the season was the yards after catch. He was always so good at that, be able to create separation. But not only once he catches the ball, rather than going down, making big plays. I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that. And I would tell you the receiver position, they've been very patient with that group. And I give Patrick Mahomes a lot of credit. It's easy to get down on guys, when they drop balls. They led the league in drops.
Yeah.
They just keep coming back to him, keep giving him chances, keep working at it in practice. And I think we're seeing gradual improvement. They're not a group right now that's got, the dominant 1-2 receiver. It's kind of a wide receiver by committee approach. And it seems to have worked well for them here the last month.
Rich, take us back to your time in Kansas City. 95, you come in as the backup, and you're thrust into action in the fourth quarter of a playoff game where we need to go down and score a touchdown or kick a field goal to tie the game to go to overtime. I don't know that there's ever really a precedent for that, thinking about it before or since then. take us back to that one of the coldest games in NFL history. This is January of '96 against the Colts, of course, and just I'm sure you're sitting on the sideline freezing for 3 hours. Hey, Rich, go lead us down the field, man. What was that situation like? Tough loss for the city.
It's funny you remember the weather because that was a big story in that game. And we had, we were 13-3. We had home field advantage. We're playing the Colts. We had a really good team. I mean, our defense was really good. Yeah. We had Marcus Allen. We had a really good running game. And Steve went out there and struggled a little bit. And we were holding them. We were, getting off we were playing good defense. We just weren't doing anything with the ball offensively. And in the fourth quarter, with about 7 minutes to go, Mike McCarthy, our quarterback coach, turns to me and says, "Go get warmed up. You're going to go in." So I take off. I'm freezing. I was sitting there just freezing for like 3 hours. So I begin to take off my jacket, and he comes back and goes, No, hang tight. And he and Marty Schottenheimer and Paul Hackett were having this conversation about what was going to happen. Oh. Mike was kind of listening, but it was really between Paul and Marty. And I think Paul said, "Let's give him one more series." So he goes back out there. So then I'm sitting there again. So then with I want to say somewhere around the 4-minute mark, he says, "Go get warmed up." And I think I came into the game at I don't know, it was 3 minutes or something like that. Yep. But I never even got a throw. And I went out there. I was freezing cold. I wasn't warmed up, and we went down the field, and we got in a position to kick a field goal with Lynn Elliott. It just didn't happen. I felt terrible for Lynn, but that was a team. And to go 13-3, I think that one hurt. But the one that hurt even more was in '97 when I started the last 7 or 8 games, and Elvis got to start in that game. And I wasn't mad at Marty or even Elvis, but it was just a poor decision. The guy hadn't played. He wasn't physically ready to play. His conditioning wasn't good. It was a problem all game. And we have a really good team, and we lose to the Broncos at home. I think we only gave up 13 points or something like that.
17-13.
Was it 17-13?
Yeah.
So anyway, it is what it was. We were good enough to beat them. They go on to win a Super Bowl. It's the way it works.
With Neil Smith on the other sideline, too. Yeah. That's another one. I think that I'm kind of sort of cleansed of that over the last few years. I don't know why something's happened.
Well, winning Super Bowls helps.
Right.
I don't think I'll ever be cleansed.
Joe's coming today. He's going to be on our show today.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
So.
You tell him there's a Chiefs action figure over here if he wants to
stop by. If you'd like to sit down.
Yeah, he comes every year. He's usually has something he's promoting every year. But he's when I was playing in the league, Joe was ahead of me in terms of years. But when I came to Kansas City, Mike McCarthy sat me down because Joe had been here the year before, and we just studied footwork tape of Joe and plays and concepts. And he's a guy that I really admired just in terms of his play style, his ability to process information, and his ability to put his team in a position to have a chance to win each week. One of the greatest of all time, Joe Montana.
Absolutely. We're thankful for his 2 years here in Kansas City, just like we're thankful for your years here in Kansas City as well. And last thing before we let you go is we just got to kind of get into this game and how you see it going, knowing the problems that the Niners can create for the Chiefs defense with Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey in the backfield, and how well Brock Purdy's playing.
Yeah, it's going to be a good challenge. I mean, they're well coached. They get the ball out quick. I think, to me, when you look at what's happened here the last couple of weeks against the Packers and against the Lions, if they come out and don't get off to a good start, this one could get away from them. They're going to have to play 4 good quarters of football to beat the Chiefs. They can't have a half where you're sound asleep and come back and expect to get it going in the second half against Patrick Mahomes.
And this defense doesn't give up more than 7 points is the most they've given up in the second half.
On the other side of it, if you're the 49ers, you better have success in the early downs. If you get into 3rd and 7+ situations against Steve Spagnuolo, again, it could be a long day. But look, I like the Chiefs, not just because I played there. I think they're the best team. I think they're peaking at the right time. You mentioned the defense. I think the defense, what they did last week to the Ravens, it really opened up some people's eyes in terms of the talent that they have. The football IQ that they have on that side of the ball, really impressive. That back end, the experience that they have, the communications, it's outstanding. And, of course, I say I'm here in Vegas. I'm not a gambler. I don't bet on games. But if I had my last $5 and
there's my DraftKings app. You can place your bet. You got your house money here. Go ahead.
If I had my last $5, I know one thing: I would never bet against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, and I ask all these players and coaches that come through, in a gotta have it situation, the game on the line, who's the one quarterback you'd want to have on your team? And to a person, they almost always say Patrick Mahomes. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, roster to roster last week, I was like, maybe the Ravens are the better team, but I said Patrick Mahomes is inevitable.
That's Rich Gannon. I tell you what, Rich, we got to up our game next year. New Orleans, we'll go for 4 straight years. We'll get some signage. We'll make it even bigger.
Bro, count on it. I'm there.
Yes.
Done.
We'll make it happen. And
I don't know what you guys did with the airbrushing, but you made me look younger
we
and
may
a little
have
bit
to
better.
update the hair.
May have to
a little
update the
bit.
hair. Yeah. Can we do that? Can we get our graphics department to work on that?
Absolutely. We will get
Huh?
that for sure.
Also,
don't know.
next year, we will be presenting you with the real award that you were kind of taken out of. We can get over 97. We can't get over that you were the NFL's sexiest man and Elvis got that award instead of you.
We
That's
should
the one
talk about that next time.
we will have
Rob.
one made, Rich. Thank you so much.
You guys are the
Always an
best.
honor.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.